Welcome everyone to Naked Aging, and we're all here as usual. We have Buffy, Dr. Miles, psychiatrist in residence, and we have Celia, of course, and Francine, and a very special guest with us today, Dr. Stephen Hopping, the renowned Dr. Stephen Hopping, plastic surgeon here in Washington, D.C. for many years. I covered your work as a journalist, and we're always happy to see you and have you answer our questions. But we all have some very personal questions that we'd like to ask you. Speaking for women of our age, that certain age, can you look at us and tell how old we are? No, don't tell us.
Probably not.
Don't try.
It's about, everybody gets a little bit too focused on, their 10x mirrors. What's really beautiful is the energy your faces have, And sure, if you have wrinkles or if you have bags, that sort of detracts from the energy. But it's the energy that people are attracted to, don't you think?
I sure hope so.
Huh?
I hope so. You got it right.
These ladies all have wonderful energy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is true, and I agree, because I like friends. I choose my friends that way. But I know we all have questions that we want to ask you about what
I
we
have
can
one.
do.
No.
Yes.
Are you ever too old to have plastic surgery?
Well, I think that's a
That was the
really,
first
really
question.
good question. Those of us of this ilk, of this age, and we're all part of that baby boomer generation. And, baby boomers they're still the CEOs. They're the presidents of the United States. They're the ones who are, out there still dating. They've gone through, on their second, third marriage, and they're out there. They're not ready just to go into a home. They're living, they're working, so they want to look the part. They're working out. So I think that baby boomer generation is the one who's really skyrocketed with
When you
cosmetic
say
and plastic
baby
surgery.
boomer, what age group are you really speaking
Well,
of?
it would be 85 to 60.
Oh, okay. I'm in
Okay.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
That fits us.
She always worries
60 and
about
up, yeah.
who's a baby boomer and who isn't. But listen,
And the other thing is that people are, they're more conscious about their health. I mean, my father's father died when he was 50. My father was very conscious about his health. He died when he was 82. And, the generations are... So I think that it's about the way people want to feel. They want to always feel attractive, and they want to feel virile and...
So if an
Shit.
80-year-old comes into you and says they want to do your face, they want you to do their face
Uh-huh.
or something. What about being put under, anesthetized?
Well, the first thing I ask them is, number one, have you had any previous plastic cosmetic surgery?
You can't tell?
Usually I can,
Yeah.
but we need to know. Maybe there's something I didn't know.
Right.
Do they have cheek
interacting
implants?
with the patient.
Do they have
Yeah.
cheek implants? Do they have chin implants? Those are the things that are hard to tell.
So far,
so
it's
the
no
first thing
for
you
two.
ask is,
Okay.
have you had any other surgery? Are you
Right.
talking plastic surgery, or suppose
Yeah.
you've had a hip replacement or something else?
Knee replacements, all that.
Broad strokes, we want to know all of those things. Really, the most important question for me is, what medications are you taking? Are you on a blood thinner? Because if you're on a blood thinner, probably
Not.
you're not going to be a good candidate for elective surgery, because your medical doctor's not going to give you a clearance, and rightly so.
Right.
If you're on high blood pressure medicine, is it controlled? That's okay if it's controlled. Do you have stents in your heart? Have you had a heart attack? Because if that's the case, I'm not going to do you in my office. I'll have to take you to George Washington University Hospital. So it becomes a whole bigger deal. Now, nobody goes to either my operating room or GW's operating room without medical clearance, okay? Probably we should have them all get psychological clearance too. And sometimes I do that. Sometimes I will do that.
Well, the question, of course, from the psychological point of view, would be, why now?
Right.
What are you doing? How do you feel that your face is or isn't presenting you the way you want to be presented? Because our faces are our PR. And so when you walk into a room, you have 30 seconds to make a good impression. And not 30 minutes, 30 seconds.
Exactly.
And I don't care how old you are. You can be 25, you have 30 seconds. That's why I have these hilarious conversations with my adolescents because, you know, they're doing all kinds of things right now. They have the mushroom explosion hairdos and so forth. So you're not going to get the job, you know. And they say, but Dr. Miles, I'm smart and I can do this. I said, yeah, but your PR isn't good.
The PR is the way
Yeah.
you look.
The PR is your face first.
Yeah, well,
And-
Don't you think that in this generation, we can use baby boomers, that do you find yourself having to manage expectations? If you're seeing a woman who wants, get rid of her wrinkles and a facelift, and do you try to tell her what is doable that will keep her looking like herself?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Versus, and the reason I say that is I can remember, say even 15 years ago, when you were talking about energy, when facial fillers and Botox had made so many women look sort of just plastic.
All right.
And so
it's
you
still
did
happening.
does that mean
They
they,
can't smile.
does that mean they've had too much?
Usually that's too much, yes.
Right.
Like-
So, but that's a couple questions. So.
Sure, no, but because, how do we want to look? We want to look like we did when we were younger, maybe a little better. If we had a weak chin, you add a chin or something of that nature because that always helps. But with fillers or with surgery, if it doesn't look natural, then it looks a little weird. It looks a little bizarre, it's off, and that's not attractive. And we've made this mistake by pulling facelifts too tight in the past, and we don't do that anymore because what part of aging is gravity, but part of it is atrophy. We lose volume. Look at our children, and you have a lot of volume still, but that's good. That's why you look so young. But the rest of us tend to lose volume. Okay, so that's the
Stab
whole
my heart.
that's the whole filler market, adding volume, and boom, you look younger.
Yeah.
But if you had too much volume, you look like a caricature.
You
You all look like a
Or
caricature.
like, you're right. The first facelifts, everybody looks surprised.
Right.
And then there's also the
Or like
big
they're on a
lips.
on a wind
Yeah.
tunnel.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then the whole thing with big lips.
Do you think people realize that first things go forward and then down? They don't. So if they're going to be fixed, they have to go up and then back.
Sure.
So
Well, and by first adding volume, either with fillers or we're using patients' own fat,
yeah,
almost routinely, because we add more volume, and then, as you say, there's less lifting and less looking like you're on a wind tunnel or
Exactly.
on a bobsled.
But how long does the fat last? I mean, when you say inject fat,
Mm-hmm.
does that last any length of time?
60% of the fat has longevity, not 100%. So it's something that sometimes you have to do again, or you do. My patients who've had facelifts as a maintenance, many times come every 6 months and do their Botox and do their filler as a maintenance.
So is one of your first questions, what do you want from surgery?
Mm-hmm. Sure, of course.
And what kinds of answers do you get?
A lot of times, most people come in who are over 60, okay? Now, many people come in and, they've had previous plastic surgery and maybe they had something when they were 50. With aging, what happens as we approach 60, either our eyes or our necks that seem to age faster than the rest of our faces. If you've got really good bone structure, like Barbara here, those cheeks, you, great cheeks, that tends to slow the aging process in this area. But the neck, you see, our necks don't have the same elasticity as the face, so they always age faster. So the necks usually have to get done first, and maybe the eyes. Eyes, fortunately, people do generally once a lifetime. You don't have to do it again. Necks, probably you have to do a tuck up in 10 years.
How
Have you
hard
ever
is it
had
to
any
do a
money?
neck? How hard is it to,
A neck is it's a similar kind of recovery to a facelift. A facelift is a misnomer. It's really about the neck and the jowls.
Well,
We call it a facelift, but it's really what it improves the most is the neck and the jowls, the lower face.
I was saying to Steve that about, 8 or 9 years ago, I inherited the biggest turkey waddle. I mean, it was so much skin here.
Pronounced.
and it made me look, and I have bony collarbones anyway, and it just was so aging looking.
Yeah.
And having that fixed really helped. For me, my own, I don't know,
Your
I guess it looks
self-esteem,
better,
everything.
but it made me feel better about myself, and in a way, I think cosmetic. Not as much. We don't really use plastic surgery. Don't we use cosmetic? Cosmetic surgery is all about how you feel when you walk out the door,
Sure.
and that to me made me feel better. And the other thing, and then I'll stop confessing, is on my father's side of the family, we called them the brim bags, and there were these big eye bags that came, and no matter how much makeup, no matter how much sleep, there was no
You
way.
always look tired.
I always looked
Right.
tired, right?
And you
so
could not get rid of them.
I did get rid of them.
No, but I mean without some intervention.
Oh no, there was no way.
No way to get rid of them.
No, there was no like.
You can put only so
magic-
much white stuff under here.
No, you could not get rid of it. It's like the turkey wallet. Those were the two major things that I think
Sure.
You know,
of. And
let
I
me-
don't, women come to you for that sort of.
Oh yeah, and you're saying, well, what do they come for? They know they're looking in the mirrors and they can't cover this tired look. They sleep all night. They go to an event, and people, oh, you're so tired looking. And no, they don't want to hear that. They try preparation H, everything, on their eyes. It just doesn't
Did
work.
that work? Does that
Works a little-
work at
Works a
all?
little bit.
That's it.
You didn't hear it from me. Off label.
Most of the women that I know
I've
want
known
to be
people that-
refreshed.
much younger.
Refreshed, and they don't want to look
be
tired.
refreshed.
So that's, I think, eyes, both men and women, is everybody eventually probably could benefit from eye lift. There are a
But
few
do you
people.
get more men coming in now?
Yes.
Many more men, yes. I would say still it's 60%, maybe 70% women, 30%.
But still, that's a
But
big
10 years
percentage.
ago, it was 15%.
Yeah.
Right.
And in terms of your question about expectations, I mean, that's really important, You have to really be a little bit of a psychologist, understand what people are, well, why are you doing this now? Now, many people in this age group, my age group, your age group, the group we're speaking of, their daughters or their sons are getting married. And
Yeah.
that's the impetus. They want to look as good as the new mother-in-law.
That's really interesting.
It's really true.
Yes.
And it does seem to be the case, too.
I usually ask that, and they say, yes. I said, when is it?
Big event.
Big event. And if it's 3 weeks away, I said, we better go the filler route. So we do Botox, we do some lasers, and we can improve them. We can't really give them, if they give us 3 months so that they
That's
look really
different.
natural, we can make a big difference. For the photography sessions.
What about the weight loss effect on getting ready for plastic surgery?
Well, what kind of plastic surgery?
Anytime. I mean,
Well,
I think
well,
that
face,
some
If you do
people
body.
cosmetic, if you do cosmetic and you lose a lot of weight,
Well, I noticed that a number of people need to lose probably 20 pounds or something
Sure.
before they enter the process
Mhm.
because it affects their faces, it affects their waddles, it affects everything, and they're not necessarily doing
Did you say
body
waddle?
surgery.
yeah.
Waddle, right?
That's the waddle.
Oh,
It's
I
a
didn't know
piece of
that.
skin.
Is that the medical term for this?
It's Celia's
That's
term.
a sociological term. Waddle.
Yeah.
And-
yeah.
And,
that'd be fun.
and waddles, you correct me if I'm wrong, waddles are hereditary. Because you look at people's family pictures, grandpa has a waddle, and grandmother has a waddle, or whatever.
Right. All the brims on my father's side had waddles.
Have a waddle. And so you can expect to have one yourself if they did, or they have the eye bags, or
Sure.
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, no, of course. And, a lot of patients come in and they say, what's the best thing I can do earlier in life, in earlier ages, and to look the best I can, Dr. Hopping? I say, choose your parents carefully. But we don't have that ability, so,
Yeah.
But in your question about weight, I think it's very important because number one, if you're 20 pounds overweight, it's going to affect your blood pressure. It's going to affect your general health. If you're going to do liposuction, if patients are willing, if they're under 5, 6, or 7 and weighing over 200, 220 pounds, we make them come down to 200 before we have it. We'll do that surgery. It affects your recovery from the anesthesia and from the stress of the surgery. Liposuction, we're sucking most of the fat away. But if you've lost weight, then probably you're going to need a tummy tuck rather than just liposuction. With facelifts, we do liposuction, so we suck this fat away first.
Yeah.
So it's less important, but it's good. It's good for their general health to get people close to
Even
their
if you
ideal.
suck
So
the fat
their,
away,
their BMI
to leave
is
the skin
normal.
loose is a question.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if we suck it away, you can. There are lasers that we use internally that can tighten the skin. The new thing is the thread lifts. That, again, there's a limit that they can do, but they can lift the neck, the face. I love them. They're great. There's no anesthesia, or there's local
But you've
anesthesia.
been doing that. Okay.
Yeah, I do it.
But
again,
I could
it's
see
for younger.
the strings. I could see the strings
I
for
don't
a
think
while.
that they just weren't done right. That's not really a problem.
I did see it on someone, and,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
they-
saw the string, and I
Well,
was,
they
oh
can be easily
God.
removed.
You can
If you
pull
do
this-
it, you can take it out just like you put it in, and they do dissolve. They're just suture material. They only last a couple of years, and it's really better for people early in the aging process. When you're really very loose, or you've never had anything done, you're 65 or certainly 70. You really need to have surgery. Otherwise, you're going to get like a 5% improvement. You're not going to see a difference.
Do you
And-
ever tell anyone no?
Oh yeah, and that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Telling people no.
For what reasons?
Their health, that they think that they're 65, 70, and they've got triple chin, and they think they need a thread lift. It's
Yeah.
just unrealistic expectations. So my job, or our job, is to get the patient's expectations and what we can really deliver as close to possible. Otherwise, they're going to be unhappy. They're going to need something else. They feel like they wasted their money, and they say bad things about you, so you don't want to do that.
So you don't think that there's anyone that's ever too old?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I will say that I'm doing, every week someone, or every 2 weeks someone who's in their 80s, but they've been cleared surgically.
Right.
They have no systemic medical issues, and we're using lighter anesthesia now. We used to
And
do only
Valium, not Valium, but
Xanax.
something. Xanax.
And we do it in the office, and we don't spend as much time. It used to be, some people take 6 to 8 hours, but we've got it down to like 3, so you're on the table less. So all these things are important.
what about tummy tucks and butt lifts?
Ah,
Do you see those in women of a certain age?
Well, we
Or do
certainly
you-
did.
no, that tends to be a younger
The Brazilian
group.
butt
The
lift.
Brazilian butt lift is the fastest growing procedure out there right now. Unfortunately, it's one of the most dangerous.
Really?
There have been deaths from the Brazilian butt lift. Deaths in every state of the United States.
Why?
Because you're taking fat. So it's great. You take the fat, you inject it into the butt. Sounds easy. There are these huge blood vessels in the buttocks. And if you if you get into that blood vessel, boom, to the heart.
Well, I knew that wasn't something I wanted to do.
I think a Brazilian butt lift is in none of our
Yeah.
horizons.
But a
But
lot
it
of
is
them-
very popular, and what's kind of nice, I just came back, I was in Miami Beach, and walking on the beach, and, everybody, certainly the beautifully thin
They're all wearing
patients
those
that
thong bathing
wear
suits.
thongs. And even patients who are quite,
Robust.
robust or have a
That's
lot of
good.
curves,
Rubenesque.
Rubenesque have a lot of curves, they're wearing the same bathing suits. Because why? Because of the Kardashians, and
Right,
because of the Brazilian butt lift.
right.
You don't have to, there's no shaming anymore. They're proud of those bodies. And
Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful. It's changed. It used to be in the Twinkie period,
Everybody.
was
That
was
was more
cachectic.
Anorexic.
Anorexic, exactly. But now,
Now,
That's
Thanks
what
to-
I wanted to
Figure-
be. I mean, that's what we
Well,
were
it's
brought
it's
up
it's
with.
great for
And-
somebody who's born with
right,
a butt.
because a lot of people genetically, these patients are never going to be thin.
But what about those women who are born with flat butts? I mean, who don't have anything, and they
Well,
feel
there's
like
the butt implant, just like a breast implant. They have no fat, so you have to put it in an implant.
I
So
see.
That's
But
even a
you say-
little more complicated.
I
So
see.
is that that's worse than doing the injectables?
A lot of times they're combining, because there's only so much fat a lot of people have to put into the butt, right? A little more junk in the trunk.
Right.
procedure. So you put the
I
best.
remember when we used to have girdles to not show
Right.
the
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've gone
I really think that's what the
Yeah.
Kardashians do anyway, because Kim
Right,
Kardashian now,
right.
she had that huge derriere, and now it's disappeared. Where'd it go? She's
Right.
got a new boyfriend.
Remember
That's what
that
happened.
that one where the picture in was it Vogue or Vanity Fair where she's balancing a cup of coffee on her butt.
Iman,
Some
the
people can
model.
put a tray
Kim
on it.
Kardashian.
Oh, because I think I saw
So
one.
the cover of
on
it
the
was.
model.
I mean, it was huge. It did disappear. It did go. I have another question. You were mentioning you were in Miami and on the beach. I mean, I'm of the generation where I spent my teens with tinfoil in the summer, tinfoil, baby oil, every day out there.
Iodine in the
I-
baby.
Yes,
Fine.
right.
Baby oil and iodine,
All right.
frying my body, but most of all my face, for years and years and years.
And
And then I was the same generation that didn't
We didn't
allow
too.
my
I
kids
didn't use that.
out, without sunscreen.
lathering.
And my children, my grandchildren, are lathered up. They can't, it's ridiculous, and it's almost overkill. So my question to you is,
Sunblock.
women over 60 who have spent those years abusing their skin because of sun, what do you do when they come to you and say, I have brown age spots and
Excuse me, I went to the University of Miami. I don't have these for nothing.
Me too.
I didn't get A's and B's, but I got a great burn.
Well, but I bet you're wearing sunblock now.
You bet.
Sure.
Me too.
No, not so much. Okay. Well, because the new
I
the
don't go
younger
out in the
gen,
sun.
the X and they're being very careful
They're-
about that. They know all about
Yeah.
they're into sunblock, and they're not into burning, and they're so they seem to be much more aware of it. They're that younger generation. The moment they have a wrinkle, boom, they're in getting Botox. They get fillers, and for the blemishes, there's a whole host of lasers out there. So these are all the non-surgical things that we were talking about that have, the incidence of people using these Botox and fillers and lasers, these non-surgical things, is skyrocketed, tenfold, almost 50-fold over the past 10 years.
Well, what I've been hearing now, that dentists are doing Botox on people. What is this crap?
mhm.
Really? Where do you come up that a dentist can give you Botox?
Because
Well,
everybody's
and
trying to
people
jump
go
on
to
the
them.
bandwagon.
Yes. Well,
Sure,
what about
well-
you? I mean, you have patients coming in to see you, and could you pull out your needles and start giving?
But she could if she wanted to. It's not illegal. If you have an MD degree, you can do it.
I know that.
That's all
I've
you
seen
need.
dentists do it and everybody else except your gardener. But that's because they want to cash in on the trade.
There's that much money in Botoxing of people.
But I remember the first time I got Botox was when it was first years and years ago, and it dropped. It dropped my I have it up here, but it dropped my eyebrows.
Right.
So I went around for a couple months, like
Yeah.
that, until it
Like an avatar.
yes, exactly, until it relaxed enough that I could have a facial expression again. So I think that cosmetic surgery also has gotten better at where to put the
Oh yeah,
Botox.
no, it takes a lot of
So,
experience. If because Botox is you have to know the anatomy. They're basically your weakening muscles.
Right.
So there are muscles that pull down, and there are muscles that pull up. Well, we want to leave the ones pulling up, and just weaken the ones pulling down. But if you have a little too much stuff that drifts into those muscles pulling up, then everything goes down. And,
Right.
I have a
you have a
question.
very unhappy patient for a while.
Steve,
What
I
about?
have-
Okay.
Yeah, I have one other question
Sure.
for you. I don't know if it's in your area or not, but what about the people who struggle with obesity and they have the band around their stomachs
Sure.
to help them lose weight
Yeah.
more quickly, and then they lose it, but then they have a lot of cosmetic surgery that needs to be done
Yeah.
because they have a lot of loose skin and I've seen people who've been, one woman said to me, she said, I used to be a size 14 in a size 20 skin.
Right.
And so my cosmetic surgeon simply took my both shoulders and lifted them up and made my skin smaller. And so this was out in LA where everything is done.
Yeah, well, those patients, and there's a lot of those patients out there.
There are a lot
And
of
they
them.
need, and hopefully this is someplace where insurance would actually
Yes.
be helpful because, they lost it because of, they had,
But does
they were
insurance take
morbidly obese.
And
So
it-
but the only thing you can do is circumferential tummy tuck,
Yeah.
thigh lift,
Yeah.
brachioplasty.
Yeah.
Because it's all skin. So
It's skin.
there's no laser
The-
that's going to
the-
take care of
the
that.
flabby
There's no
skin
lipo.
away.
Yeah, it's big surgery, and usually it is covered by insurance.
But wait a
Now,
minute,
what
you
if-
mean like flabby arms could be covered?
If you had to have a bypass surgery because you were morbidly
Flabby
obese.
armed.
Yes,
Morbidly
flabby
obese,
arms.
100 plus pounds
Pounds.
overweight.
Yeah.
Well, I must tell you that I was with my little grandchildren last week, and I was at the beach, and my 3-year-old came up and said, "Grandma, what's wrong with your arms? And I'm wearing a long. But if I took this off, you'd see there's like all this
Well,
flat.
that's right. That's
You
right.
should say to them, I'm just waving
You
at
know, I
Right, it
know
was
somebody
waving,
hit
right,
their
right.
arms, but
And
they have
this
a
is
big
waving.
scar.
So we haven't.
Right. There's.
It's a big scar from having that done, your arms.
I would say 90, maybe 95% of women have that issue.
I have a question
Asian
about
friends.
those of us of color. Our skin is a little thicker.
Mhm.
We don't. I don't think we age quite as fast
Yes.
as people with very, very fair skin. But are there any complications that you find in operating,
Yeah,
doing
sure.
facial
That's
surgery?
that's a really good question. First thing I ask patients who have any, I said, well, what's your background? Where you come from? I mean, are you, if you're European, if you're, and also if do you form keloids? Because keloids are a terrible problem, and usually they have scars somewhere else, and you can look at them, but sometimes not. And when they develop, they're sometimes difficult to get rid of. You have to reoperate them. You have to inject steroids. You have to use laser. Some patients have to do radiation to get rid of them. So that's really important. And,
If
and
they
take a good
scar.
if they get keloids. Everybody scars, of course. I'm talking about keloid is like a tumor. It's not a scar. It's beyond a
ropey
scar.
kind of scar.
Right, it actually is growing and it's painful and it itches and it's a big.
But Mediterraneans get that as well.
Sure.
Yes.
But the
Asians,
and Asians get
Asians,
and African Americans.
Afro Americans.
But there's an
the American
expression
Indian.
yeah.
in the African American community about melanin, which
Yes,
says black don't crack.
right.
And so
I've heard that many times. But
there's less need for
Fillers
a
and
lot of
things like
plastic surgery because
Right.
melanin protects
kind
the
of holds
skin.
it
Right.
together.
that. Exactly.
But would you recommend, though, for someone of color that they have maybe a test of some sort to see if they would get a keloid?
Well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, one test is piercing of the ears. Some people who form keloids easily, they'll get a big keloid from that. So you take that kind of history. But I think that's a really good idea. Usually people have other scars that you can look
But I was
at.
going to say they usually know
Right.
if they feel it.
I mean,
Or if
so
there's a family history. This is where history is important. If there's a family history of
I
that.
guess if you've never had a scarring incident, then you would not know if you
But
had
there's
Well,
hard
probably
to
a
get
test
through
is,
life without a scar.
But again, even a little ear piercing
Pierce,
will do it
okay.
for people who really
Yeah.
form this. But that's a really good question, and I think that there's a because it's a significant problem, and when it occurs, the patient is really unhappy. You're really unhappy, and it takes sometimes multiple treatments to correct it.
I know that.
So better avoid it,
And with
So there are a
women-
lot of people who are not excuse me, you're just saying about, do I ever say no? I say no every day, really. I would say the older I get in doing this, probably I'm saying no to 40% of the patients.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
either they have unrealistic expectations, or they've had cardiac disease, or they have uncontrolled hypertension, or they have unrealistic expectations.
Managing
half the
expectations must be so much
Yes,
So half the
Of-
people that come to
in
you,
your
you
field
say
too
no.
yes.
about appearance.
And you go, oh shoot.
Most people don't.
But it's
want
how you
their
have to say
faces
no.
to change.
You have
It's
to be
really hard.
trained.
It's really
hard.
difficult. Yeah,
So
it is.
how does a person pick a plastic surgeon? I mean,
Yeah.
we know that you're well known here in Washington. Other people from around the country who might be watching us, what's the first thing you should do?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to, you know, you can talk to your primary doctor, but you know, they're not really pro plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery. Hopefully, maybe you have some friends who've had something done, and I think
But
that's
they
a
don't
very
usually
good-
tell.
They don't like to tell you, very, except for
Word
this
of
group.
mouth
Except for this group.
referral is terrific.
Well, one friend of mine told me about you. I said, when I knew, I knew that she knew you, and she said, oh, but he said he would never cut me. He would never cut, and so he just gave me some Botox in my cheeks. Well, she looked too good to have just had Botox.
Well, that's
But,
it's kind of, it's like finding an attorney, you know, a specialized attorney. It's really very difficult, really. And if you could look at the Washingtonian, and you know, I guess that's helpful. The people who have been picked by their peers, I think that's good. Word of mouth is really the best. And you know, if you want a tummy tuck, you don't want to go to somebody like me who mostly does faces. Okay, you want to go to somebody who that's what they're doing every day, or breasts. So everybody, especially in a
But
town
when you
like
say
Washington-
faces, do you separate the eyes from the rest of the face, or?
Well, then that's a good question. Like there's oculoplastic surgeons, okay, that do eyelid surgery. They actually do more than eyelid surgery, but I think they're particularly good at eyelid surgery. A lot of people have this ptosis, you know, where one eye's a little droopy, or they have too much to drink and it droops. Very hard to fix because it's just not taking skin. You got to shorten the muscle. Who has the most experience? Oculoplastic, because it happens as people get older. So the Medicare generation has, you know, they do these on the Medicare generation all the time. So that's the person I go to for ptosis, not me. I'm not good at it.
But some,
I only do it once or twice a year.
but let's say a girl has Graves' disease or something.
Yeah.
You would say go to an ocular.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, there is that saying that you want to go to the surgeon or the doctor who does this, whatever procedure it is that you're looking for again and again.
Right.
You know,
And so when you see
thousands
those
of
doctors, if they can't show you any before and after pictures of the particular procedure,
pictures are important to ask to see
Well,
their
you know,
pictures.
I don't understand that. You know, that's not. I would keep looking around.
Yeah.
I was going to say at least get 3 names from friends
Yeah, that's
and
good.
go and interview them. Go and have a consultation with them
'Cause-
and see how you relate to the person and how the person relates to you. Because if you're going to do plastic surgery on your PR, you know, number one area, you want someone who cares about how you will turn out. One person said to me, I said to my doctor, I don't want to look like somebody else. I just want to look like me. Refreshed.
Yeah, and
I'll
most
take
people
it.
in Washington are that way.
Now, I'll tell you one little quick
Not
story.
not in LA, Steve.
No, right.
An
No.
It's a whole different
acquaintance of
thing.
mine came up to me when I just worked out and said, she put her hands on my face. She says, Francine, you see all these lines you have? Well, I went to my plastic surgeon and he said, don't you dare do anything. You're perfect. And I said, well, and I put my hands on her face. I said, if all your lines don't bother you, you shouldn't. I haven't spoken to her since. We have not spoken. How dare she?
Well,
Well, I think you have given us a lot of food for thought, and certainly inspired me to get on the phone.
since we're trying to make this naked aging for everybody, every woman,
Mm-hmm.
most women can't afford it, right?
Sure.
Cosmetic surgery for the lower middle class American woman is not choice.
Sure.
But I hear so many women saying, "I'm saving up for it."
right.
Right.
They
That's
they
true.
know they want it. They know they're going to want it, and it's really something to put your money in the jar to save up for. Although a jar full of dollars is probably not going to buy what most of us would like to have done, the extent of what we'd like. But I think it is inspirational for many women to look and read about it and think, I could do that.
Sure.
I'm going to save
Yeah.
my dollars.
Well, do you get people
And
that come to
sometimes
you and
it's
say, I can't
choices.
afford that?
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know, if you
That's
go
all the time.
I
They don't usually
see
talk to me.
all the
They
time.
usually talk to my office
I want
manager.
to get this done.
Well, I think that's why it's really. I mean, there's competition here. Competition keeps prices down. You go to New York City, things are all gonna. Everybody's gonna be a little higher. I have a lot of people come from New York City, come here because our prices in Washington are not at the level they are in New York City. Neither are our expenses, perhaps. But competition, people. I would say most people visit 3 surgeons before they make a decision. Okay, and I think that's a good idea. I mean, who do you feel most comfortable with? Who do you trust? Who do you feel like
You
has the
really
most
can't go
experience?
by money then. I mean, not when you're doing your face, you don't want to
We can't go by money, but you can say, well, this is what Dr. So-and-so recommended, and sometimes people will sort of work with you. There are payment plans, there are USA, you can get the USA card and have interest-free for a year. Dentists do this all the time. To get all of your teeth replaced, it's like a condominium.
I know.
Well,
I've been there.
They all do the financing.
Yeah.
So there's financing.
Right.
I think you once told me in an interview that I did with you that all well-trained surgeons, and particularly plastic surgeons, use pretty much the same method.
Mm-hmm.
You have you're taught to what is it called? Where you lift
The
them.
SMAS.
Smash.
Deep plane.
You told us about that
Right.
in a show that we did once before.
Right.
And what you need to find is somebody who does it well.
Exactly.
And somebody who follows the rules, but somebody who's had experience like you, I'm sure that makes a big difference. Do you
Yeah.
think you're better at it than you were 20, 30 years ago?
And I think, unfortunately, I am. I lecture now when I lecture because I've been doing this a long time, and I'm not only am I getting better results, I'm faster, I have fewer complications. I think for the first 10 years, we should pay the patients. Because we're learning basically. I'm joking a little bit. I'm joking about
But
that.
don't get anybody brand new then.
I can't
You've almost said that.
I can't say that, but
I think
experience is so important. Whether you're sculpting, doing television, interviews, right?
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of doctors now have quite a widespread group of patients, and they will try to meet you where you are with a payment plan, with
Right.
this, with that. And women are very smart. The younger women simply start saving. They say to their families, for my birthday, I will just take some money or cash or whatever, and they put that away, and when they're ready, they can go and have it
Sure.
done, whether it's dental work or
Right.
cosmetic surgery or whatever it is. So I think the other thing though that we should discuss is the shame factor.
Mhm.
Because in some cultures there's a lot of judgment against beauty and against altering yourself, they say, and they have a lot of judgment. And so I get to work with people who need to address that in their cultures.
Sure.
And they should not feel held back about doing something that will increase their career opportunities, that will make them feel better after they've dealt with obesity or they've dealt with some, strange little
Right. Or something they inherited that
deformity
they
or
can't do much
something.
about.
So
And,
which cultures don't agree?
I don't know if I want to say that.
Well, I mean,
But there's just judgment in some cultures that you should not be narcissistic and that you should not be showy and that you should not put
Right.
that kind of money into your looks. But they're that way about, my feeling is if you're going to buy a couple of Manolo Blahniks, you might as well go get a couple of implants if you need your teeth done, because it's just a matter of choice.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you go to somebody who's encouraging and says to you, you will feel good after you've done this because it's worried you all of your life, and we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do the other. And they come away feeling very, very, very good.
So I think if anybody is considering plastic surgery, they just need to do their homework, right?
Do your homework
Figure out.
and
whether
look
this is-
inside. Don't just
Right,
look
homework
outside.
inside too. How much
Right.
do you really want to do? And,
Right.
And
And what do you want at the end of the day? You're not trying to be a movie star. You're just trying to be the best you that you can be.
Right.
You know?
right.
And one more quick question. We might insert this somewhere else
Mhm.
because it might not come at the end. But, you know, a lot of plastic surgeons advertise their own special way of doing things. I know there's one out in LA who talks about the ponytail lift. What is that? Have you ever had anybody come in
It's
and
what I
ask
call
you?
the S lift.
They go, what?
I call it the S lift. You say, so I have my own little thing. I've written about the S lift, a few years ago. S refers to stealth, so it's hidden into the ear instead of in front of the ear. Okay, the ponytail lift is a variation. It stops here. In other words, the incision doesn't go behind, so that you can't, if you want to wear your hair in a ponytail. It's marketing.
It's
Marketing.
Marketing.
It's just,
Marketing.
Yeah.
it's just marketing. That,
Well, everybody
that you're
was
doing
talking
something
about-
a little different. You know.
Yeah.
It's like people are talking about D-plane versus smash versus. We do a kind of a combination. Whatever really works is, there's no best way to do it. Okay. But in question, your question about how do you find somebody? The other thing is that we do have social media, and social media does. If people are not nice to their patients, you can read about it on social media. I think it's forced
Do you
people
check yours out?
I do, and I've got a couple of bad things. I mean, there were a couple of patients weren't even one of my patients though. So you have to be,
Oh,
right.
there are ways of there's some evil forces that sometimes can happen in social media. But I think it is a way to start for people who don't have three people to talk to.
Right.
Well, Steve, I want you to say something about hair transplant.
Oh,
just
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say
That
yeah.
is gigantic right now.
Right.
It
And
is,
that's
it is,
one of
and
your specialties.
it's one of my specialties.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Yeah.
mostly my faces, eyes, nose, hair, lipo, and we've incorporated the laser in almost all these procedures now. Not the laser on the outside, but on the inside, which gives us extra 18% skin tightening, faster recovery, less bruising. So I think that has really helped recovery, because people in Washington, prior to Zoom anyway, they want to get back to their offices.
Yeah.
They can't take 2 months off. 2 weeks they can do though. 10 days for sure. Hair is, I'm doing a lot, almost as many patients, women patients, as
Yeah.
men patients now.
It
for
used to
hair.
be mostly men.
Most men. Men have male pattern baldness. It's pretty straightforward. You take a history. Their brother had it, their father or grandfather or their maternal grandfather had it. So there's some medications for them. Okay. There's medications for Propecia and finasteride, and there are medications for women. Finasteride. They can't take the Propecia because it can cause birth defects.
Can cost what?
Birth defects. So you have to be
If they're pregnant.
cautious of that, But usually they have a family history. But you have to rule out things like polycystic ovary disease, thyroid disease. Women it requires much more of a medical approach, whereas men are pretty much it's androgenic or it's male pattern baldness.
But do you find you're getting more women?
I'm getting more women, yes.
Yeah.
Majority of who we do is men,
Yeah.
and it used to be hair transplants that they do like 100 grafts. And there was like 25 to 30 hairs in each graft. But as they continue to bulb, those grafts stood up like doll hair. Joe Biden had that one time, if you remember.
He had his whole top.
Well, he had it redone, and it looks much more natural now. But now we start at 8, we finish at 3 or 4. We transplant thousands of grafts, only 1 and 2 hair, and maybe 3 hair grafts. So it looks totally natural, which is, I think, the big advantage.
Well, I remember when it first got to be such a hot thing, the men that I saw would have a crescent piece taken out of the back
Right,
of their
right.
head, and then that would be punctured, and the plugs would be put in.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems to have changed, so that what's happening is it's done sort of hair by hair, and they
Right.
don't end up with that big scar across the back.
Right. It's called
And
the
now even
follicular.
across the front, you can do it, and people don't see this a cut line. right?
Well,
And
you can put hair
actually
grafts
do-
in there if they
Yeah.
do see it, but
But I mean, what
Yeah, they're-
about this laser, one strip, one hair at a time thing?
it's not really a laser. It's a there are robots that are doing it now.
Yes,
Okay.
robot.
Yeah,
Is it
you
as
get a
painful?
robot.
Is it as painful?
It's the same. It's even a longer procedure. It takes some people times it takes 2 days to get the same number of
I
grafts
have one
as the
patient
little
who went
strip.
to New York and did it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Spent 2 days
So-
in the
Wow.
No, most patients are awake for this
yeah.
because you can't keep them under anesthesia for 8 hours. You know.
8 hours a day for 2 days.
Yeah.
No.
But is it effective for women who have male pattern baldness?
Well, yes. If so, many times for women, I'll do a biopsy. Send it to make sure it's not one of these unusual things, lupus or sarcoid, or one of the unusual things that they wouldn't be a good candidate because the grafts wouldn't take. And then we do them. Yeah, and it's the same 1, 2, 3 hair grafts. But it takes a long time before you see the results. You know,
Yeah.
nothing happens like
Like a year.
planting corn. You put them in, nothing happens for 4 to 6 months. Then they start growing at about a half a millimeter a month. But eventually they get to be long and beautiful, and they're there forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't it doesn't come out like
Those don't come out because we're taking them with men. You see, even bald men, this hair never disappears. So you put it here, and it behaves like it's there. It's incredible about the biology of hair.
what about
I
the
wrote a paper
expense?
about it in college.
Runs about, again, depends what city you're in. You know, it can be anywhere between 10 and 15,000 per session.
Per session.
Well, all day session.
Right, right.
But you know, until we find a cure, they're working on that. You know, guys are going to probably need a second session at some point in their life.
Well, we asked you to come for a half hour, but you say
Well,
we dropped you
time,
here.
time is flying. Yeah, yes.
We
It's like
really,
it's like this was all rehearsed. Your questions were fabulous. You know?
Well, we really
they weren't.
and so were your answers,
Oh, thank you.
and we knew that we could expect to get good answers from
It's
you.
been
And thank you so
exciting.
much. Anybody have one last question you want to ask, Dr.
I have a few. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Anyway, thank you all for being with us. We look forward to having you with us for another episode of Naked Aging.